Here we go. We're live on the San Francisco 49ers Report right here on Chat Sports. I'm Chase Sr., and no matter where you are, how you're tuned in, we appreciate you for making today's show a part of your day. You know, back in the day on some of those television channels, they'd be like, live from Studio A. That's what we're doing. Live from Studio A here at the Chat Sports Studios, discussing the latest happenings around the San Francisco 49ers. I'm Chase Sr., producer Jake Chipper on the ones and twos, and all of the faithful rocking with us from all across the globe. We have a loaded 49ers Report rundown for all of you here today. Going to take a look at my top 5 Steve Wilks replacements to take over as the next Niners defensive coordinator. If you had to trade one and keep one between Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk, what would you do? Who would you trade and who would you keep? We'll dive into that conversation. The Niners making 2 signings, both defensive ends going into NFL free agency, and we're going to talk about the future of Chase Young. Nick Bosa said as he was cleaning out his locker, I want him back in NFL free agency. What are the Niners going to do? What would you do if you were in the shoes of General Manager John Lynch? Well, also, of course, because we're the most interactive, informative, insightful, and most fun Niners channel right here on YouTube, going to take your questions. How do you get involved? Very easy. Use the hashtag 49ers or send in a super chat. Here's our super chat menu, and now that the offseason is officially here, we want to have a lot of fun. So starting right now, all super chats get a shout out. $10 super chat gets you into a raffle to win a Niners jersey. $50, your name goes on our Niners helmet here because we just got this in the Chat Sports Studios, $50 or more. And then $100, who sends in the most $100 super chats throughout the entire month of February, you will become our 49ers Report MVP, and we're going to get you a customized football. We want to hear from you. Use the hashtag 49ers or send in a super chat. I know you have a lot of questions as to who could replace Steve Wilks, what the Niners should do in the draft as well as in free agency. Do you still want to vent after that soul-crushing, heartbreaking, kick in the stones loss against the Chiefs in Super Bowl 58? Use the hashtag 49ers or send in a super chat. And if you're ready to start the show, hit that thumbs up icon and like the video. Looking down at the comment section here, I see King Xavier, Clean Bean World, Ricky Bobby, Everardo Rodriguez, Cesar Segura, Marvin Saraceno, and Izzy B is back in the building. What is up, Izzy? Lore using the hashtag 49ers. Riley CR saying what up. Let me say what up to the homie, the man, the myth, the legend, my right-hand man, producer Jake Chipper.
What up, what up?
What up, Chip?
What up, what up? Ken says, what's up, Chip and Chase? I saw Izzy was in the chat.
Izzy's in the chat.
Izzy wants to know if you got her info for the McCaffrey pick.
I did, Izzy. Yes, we'll be in touch there, Izzy. Football season just ended, was in Las Vegas.
Oh, and Izzy!
It was wild. And there's Izzy B! Did you get my info for the McCaffrey pick? Love y'all. Is the $100 football autographed? We will autograph it for you, Izzy B. So it'll be a customized 49ers Report football. We gave away one of those during our Super Bowl watch party. It's going to go to Gump Wolf if Gump Wolf is watching because we picked him as the winner off the wheel spin after the game. And yes, I did get your information there, Izzy, and we will get that to you and your lovely son. And yes, $100 football. It's whoever sends in the most $100 super chats throughout the entire month. We have one person who sent one in. This is not counting the watch party because that's obviously a beast of its own. So yeah, trying to have some fun here in February. Little super chat battle between all of the faithful subscribers. If you're ready to start the show, continue to like the video. We have more than 200 people watching live, 39 likes. We always shoot for a 50% viewer participation rate. So if you're a real one, like the video.
Let's get them up.
And if you haven't liked the video, do so right now because our show today, absolutely fantastic. We're going to start off with my top Steve Wilks replacements after he was fired by head coach Kyle Shanahan. We talked about that news yesterday. So without further ado, Lore, Chase, did you receive the photo that I sent you on Twitter? Lore, I'll have to see. When did you send it, Lore? Because my Twitter mentions have been blowing up because I'm really hot on the X streets right now. Instagram, Twitter, everything's blowing up on the Niners front. It's been pretty crazy. All right, we're going to start the show. I think King Xavier, he liked the video. Izzy B said, everybody super chat. It's a Thirsty Thursday live on the 49ers Report. Jake Chipper, Chase Sr., and the faithful, the Niner gang. Bang, bang. Let's go. Welcome into the show. This is the San Francisco 49ers Report by Chat Sports. I'm Chase Sr., and no matter where you are, how you're tuned in, we appreciate you for making today's show a part of your day. On the rundown for today, Steve Wilks replacements, the top candidates who could take over as the next San Francisco 49ers defensive coordinator after Kyle Shanahan called a surprise press conference via the phone line on Wednesday and announced that he is going to be moving on from Wilks and looking for the next defensive play caller. The secret is out by now, and this news is very well known from yours truly right here on this program. My number one Steve Wilks replacement, Bill Belichick, six-time Super Bowl champion as the head coach of the New England Patriots. If I'm Kyle Shanahan, I want to go all in on trying to win that next Lombardi trophy, the sixth in the organization's history and the first for Shanahan. And this is why I really like Belichick to take over for Steve Wilks. A lot of people are saying, Chase, he'd never take this job. He's a head coach with an ego. Why would he come to San Francisco? Because he's currently on the unemployment line. Doesn't have a job right now. He's one of the best defensive minds that the game of football has ever seen. The Patriots' defense last year was really, really good. A borderline top 10 unit. And Belichick, I've seen this too from some casual fans. He likes to run a 3-4. Niners don't have the 3-4 personnel. Under Robert Saleh, DeMeco Ryans, they ran a 4-3. Bill Belichick, and this is one of the big reasons why he's one of the best defensive minds of all time, is not tied to a scheme. He would game plan based on the opponent. And to have an opportunity to lead this football team, that's exceptional. Fred Warner, you're relaying your play calls to him, the best linebacker of this generation. You have Nick Bosa, Javon Hargrave, Eric Armstead, Dre Greenlaw once he comes back, Charvarius Mooney-Ward was a second-team All-Pro. I love the safety tandem moving forward of Talanoa Hufanga and Jair Brown. And then Diamador Lenore is an emerging corner in this league. And Bill Belichick has a corner background as he's been able to develop that position. Then furthermore, Belichick is a football historian. His father basically wrote the book of football scouting. Belichick loves the game of football, lives it, breathes it. He's without a job right now. That's probably eating at him. And the Niners, one of the most historic organizations in the NFL. Bill and Kyle do have a relationship. And even though Belichick is a little bit older, still think he's a very, very sharp football mind. After Shanahan lost the Super Bowl in 2019, Bill Belichick did reach out to him in 2020. So there is that mutual respect between Belichick, defensive mind and guru, and Shanahan, offensive mind and guru. Here's what Shanahan had to say about that conversation. It was really cool that he reached out to me after the Super Bowl just to talk. I was able to spend some time with him at the 2017 NFL Combine, which I was very appreciative of. Anytime that guy talks, everybody in the world listens. That was especially true for someone like me who aspired to be a head coach. He's been great. It's not like we talk a ton or anything, but he's a humble guy who likes to help people. I'm going all in on Bill Belichick. I'm at least making the call to gauge what his interests might be. What are you doing? Should Shanahan call Belichick? Type Y for yes, N for no. Sound off with what you think down below in the comment section. Steve Wilks' replacement number 2 on my candidacy list, it is Mike Vrabel, former head coach of the Tennessee Titans. He, like Belichick, surprisingly, did not get a job during this head coaching carousel. But I think he'd be able to bring a tenacity, a toughness, and a sharp football acumen to the Niners organization. Vrabel, as a player, won a couple of Super Bowls under Bill Belichick with the Patriots in the early 2000s. His Titans teams were defined by toughness. And it's not like they had loaded rosters. And I thought that Vrabel did a great job in Nashville of maximizing his defenses, and his teams on both sides of the ball really played above their punching weight. And Vrabel in Tennessee won a lot of games. And if he wants to get back to being a head coach in this league, I'll take Vrabel for 1 year. For those same reasons, I'll take Belichick for 1 year. If that's what gets you to the mountaintop of winning a Super Bowl championship, I'm known for being aggressive. I'm being aggressive in this search. Vrabel obviously is a great head coach in this league. 9-7 rookie year, 9-7 year 2, 11-5 in 2020, 2021, number 1 seed, 12-5, 2022, 7-10, 2023, 6-11. But in each of the last 2 seasons, Tennessee has dealt with a lot of injuries to that quarterback position, and they also were kind of mid at quarterback with Ryan Tannehill. So Vrabel is a good coach. I talked with Taylor Lewan at the Super Bowl. He was surprised and thought Vrabel was done a little bit dirty by being ousted. Him as a defensive coordinator, I'd love it. Now, again, I know a lot of you are saying in the comment section, but Chase, why would Vrabel or Belichick be a defensive coordinator? They love the game of football. They love the grind. They love the hustle. And an opportunity to lead this defense on this team with an opportunity to win a Super Bowl, who would pass up on that type of opportunity, ego aside? So who would you choose between Belichick and Mike Vrabel? This is really a big conversation among Niner fans on social media right now and among Niner fans in general, BB or MV. At number 3, Brandon Staley. And there's a trail here that is starting to heat up. A lot of people in NFL circles who I've talked to, this is the buzz out there. Kyle Shanahan seems to be interested in Brandon Staley. And I highly doubt that Shanahan would fire Steve Wilks without having an idea as to who he would want to replace Wilks with. Now you have Belichick, longtime head coach. Vrabel, very successful coach like Belichick. Brandon Staley didn't have success as a head coach with the Los Angeles Chargers, but a valued defensive mind. And here's this from Albert Breer as far as some of the national reporting. 2 things. Wilks was the first outside of the family coordinator hire that Kyle Shanahan has made. And number 2, along those lines, Brandon Staley has coached in that coaching family. And he's also a disciple of Vic Fangio, who Shanahan tried to get in 2017. And there were some rumblings that Shanahan was maybe going to go after Vic Fangio last offseason, but he elected to go to the Miami Dolphins. Why Staley makes sense, Vic Fangio disciple, and obviously Fangio, the defensive coordinator under Jim Harbaugh with the Niners, and the fingerprints of his offense are all over the National Football League. Brandon Staley was also a great defensive coordinator with the Rams. I don't know if he's going to have an opportunity to land a head coaching job elsewhere. That's good for San Francisco. You'd be able to have him for the foreseeable future if it works out. He is a former quarterback who played at Dayton, very analytically driven. Kyle Shanahan also has a sharp mind like that. Staley is not overly aggressive. We saw that the 49ers were burned time and time again by blitzing Patrick Mahomes, especially late in that game. And the scheme that Staley runs fits the Niners' personnel. And when Staley was the defensive coordinator for the Rams back in 2021, number 1 scoring defense, number 1 passing defense, number 3 run defense. So they were really good. Part of the reason why Kyle Shanahan is moving on from Steve Wilks, they were number 1 in rushing defense under DeMeco Ryans. That slid all the way to 26th. They were also really good at EPA per play last year under DeMeco Ryans. They dropped down to 12. So a lot of people like to say, Steve Wilks is the scapegoat. He's the fall guy for the Niners moving off of him and losing the Super Bowl. That's not the case in my opinion. You think back to everything that kind of transpired this year, it didn't seem to mesh, and there wasn't continuity, and there wasn't trust right from the jump. Players were complaining about the scheme. The sack numbers went down. There were multiple conversations about the front not being tied to the back end. Kyle Shanahan publicly called out Steve Wilks for the all-out blitz right before halftime against Minnesota. Then Wilks had to publicly apologize. Wilks then moved down from calling plays in the booth to the sideline. And then Nick Bosa after the game even said on Sunday, we weren't really prepared for some of those Patrick Mahomes runs. That's why Kyle Shanahan is moving on from Steve Wilks, because of the regression on the defensive side of the ball. Now, before we continue to move forward with my top Steve Wilks replacements, the offseason is here. And if you want to support the show and you want to support the San Francisco 49ers, San Francisco shirts available right now at chatsports.com/SF. We have sent these shirts across the Atlantic Ocean to Ireland and the UK. We've sent these shirts across the Pacific Ocean to my boy Dave Towers in Australia. We'll put that link down below in the comment section and in the description of this video, chatsports.com/SF. Get your San Francisco shirts today. At number 4 is a young mind from the college ranks, and that is Glenn Schumann, who is currently the defensive coordinator for the Georgia Bulldogs. That defense at the college level has been absolutely dominant. Schumann, just 33 years old, has experience in coaching linebackers. Obviously, the Niners value the linebacking position. They've drafted and developed at that spot very, very well. Schumann, his name is starting to trickle out and garner some interest from NFL teams. He's already had a couple of defensive coordinator interviews. Nick Saban, Kirby Smart disciple, great defensive minds there. And I think a sharp up-and-coming defensive mind would be really valuable for San Francisco. Just getting some new creative ideas and concepts in the building, and then you mold that with what some of the Niners veterans know. The downside here with Schumann, only 1 year of defensive coordinator experience. Whoever the Niners cover and whoever the Niners bring in as their next defensive coordinator, we got you covered right here on the San Francisco 49ers Report. We're going to cover all of the interviews. We're going to cover the hiring. That's why we're the largest independently run Niners channel right here on YouTube, approaching 131,000 subscribers, so subscribe today. At number 5, let's have some fun, right? I think Bill Belichick, Mike Vrabel, Brandon Staley, Glenn Schumann, all viable candidates. How about you make a call to Richard Sherman? Former Niner, former Seahawk, most likely a future Hall of Famer, one of the best defensive backs in the game. Why Sherman? He's an insanely smart player, and Pete Carroll always put his trust in Richard Sherman for his football pedigree. He knows the Robert Saleh, DeMeco Ryans defensive scheme. He understands the modern age and modern day concepts that we see all the time offensively in the game of football. And is it unrealistic? I saw a tweet today that Richard Sherman, somebody reached out to him, asked him about taking over for Steve Wilks, and he said, I'd love it, but not really for my first coaching job. So Richard Sherman, he's interested in becoming a coach, but maybe you hire him first as a defensive backs coach, and then he's able to elevate and climb his way up the ranks, and then at some point become a defensive coordinator. But right now, I've gotten a lot of questions about Richard Sherman. A lot of people have been mentioning his name down in the comment section. Wanted to address that by putting him on this list. There are some internal candidates that we can get to as well. Daniel Bullocks is the Niners' current defensive backs coach, and he helped develop Charvarius Ward into a second-team All-Pro. We saw the big leap for Diamador Lenore. He's done a great job of developing some defensive backs on this roster. That includes Ambry Thomas. He's a very valued member of this coaching staff. Jose Sanchez, who works along Grant Cohn on the Niners SI website, did a good interview with him. You can check that out. Chris Kocurek, best defensive line coach in the entire NFL, but he hasn't really shown a willingness or a want to call plays at the NFL level as a defensive coordinator. So that most likely would take him out of the running. Johnny Holland, very good linebackers coach for San Francisco. And then you have Nick Sorensen, who does have coordinator experience. He used to be the Jaguars special teams coordinator. He is currently the Niners defensive pass game coordinator. I do have to give a shout out to my guy Haberman, because he talked about D'Anton Lynn, who used to be the UCLA defensive coordinator. He's now the USC defensive coordinator. That UCLA defense last year was one of the best in the country. Another name to keep an eye out for. With that, let's round out today's segment with this. Who is your number one target to replace Steve Wilks as defensive coordinator? We just gave you 9 names and basically 10, throwing in that note there from Guy Haberman. Let us know down below in the comment section. Couple of super chats to get to. Cerebral Assassin $2 super chat. Salute to you, my brother. Thanks for supporting the show. And then Izzy B coming in once again. You think Belichick will try to get Saban as an assistant or coordinator? He has worked with Belichick. Yes, Saban wasn't as good as an NFL head coach, but is still one of the best. Very interesting there. I think Nick Saban, is just done with coaching. He said he kind of ran out of steam this past year with Alabama, so the idea is fun to talk about, kind of like Richard Sherman is fun to talk about. It's just not realistic. And then Belichick, look, if I'm Shanahan, I'm making the call. I'm making the call to at least gauge the interest, to see if he'd be interested. And if he is, let's ride, and let's chase that Super Bowl. Sir Chai 87, I agree with Stephen A. Smith. Kyle used Steve Wilks. See, I completely disagree. And I talked about this a little bit earlier, but there was big defensive regression from last year to this year. The Niners went from number 1 in rushing defense to 26th. Kyle Shanahan had to call a timeout in overtime because Steve Wilks didn't have the defense in the proper coverage. That's an issue. According to reports, I think Ryan Hensley was also on this, another great Niners content creator. Kyle Shanahan had to play a role in the defensive game planning. That's not what he wants to do. As an offensive mind, players called out the scheme, how it didn't make sense. The sack numbers were down from last year to this year. That's inexcusable. If you're a casual, then you'll come up with that type of talking point like Stephen A. Smith did. But Kyle Shanahan didn't use Steve Wilks. I mean, look at what he did with D'Amico Ryans. Elevated him to become a head coach and made the playoffs in year 1. Kelly, $5. Thoughts on Wilks being fired as deflection for blaming Shanahan? I thought we all saw this coming. Yeah, I wasn't surprised by it at all. We are going to do a mailbag, so Sir Chai, Kelly, hang tight. Definitely want to include those super chats in our mailbag so that I can expand on that a little bit later. Levi Bishop. Not going to get us there, man, but thank you so much for the $5 super chat. Let's show them the super chat menu there, Chip, because we are having some fun in the month of February here. And look at this Niners helmet that we have. You want to get your name on here? All it takes is a $50 super chat. All super chats get a shout out unless you say something ridiculous like Levi Bishop. $10, all $10 super chats that we get all throughout this month gets you in the running to win a Niners jersey. $50, you get a gold sticker on our Niners helmet. And then $100, whoever sends in the most $100 super chats in the month of February, you win a customized 49ers Report football, and you become our 49ers Report February MVP. So that's what we got. Gina G. Chase, I think Mike Holmgren would be a good candidate. He just hasn't coached in so long. That's the only issue right there.
Don't forget, use hashtag 49ers. Get those questions in. Mailbag coming soon.
Yes, sir.
A lot of people asking good questions, but not using the hashtag. Use that hashtag, baby.
Yes, sir. All right, segment number 2. If you had to keep one, trade one between Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk, who would you choose? And I'm looking at our poll question here. Do you agree with the decision to fire Steve Wilks? 74% yes, 26% no. I'm going to end that. And I'm going to start a new one here. If you had to pick one wide receiver.
Cesar, trade Deebo. Miguel, B.A. Levi, keep B.A. Get rid of Deebo. Keep Ayuk, trade Deebo.
Interesting stuff, Chip. Interesting stuff.
We'll see.
All right, let's get to segment number 2 right here live on the San Francisco 49ers Report. Following the aftermath of the Niners losing Super Bowl 58 to the Kansas City Chiefs, this front office might have to make some difficult financial decisions. And those decisions, they're already on the horizon with the offseason quickly approaching, with the NFL Scouting Combine coming up later this month, free agency, and the draft after that. So on today's show, if the 49ers have to keep one wide receiver and then trade another, I would extend Brandon Ayuk and keep him, and I would trade away Deebo Samuel. You think I'm crazy? Let me know down in the comments section. What would you do if you had to pick one to keep? Is it Deebo Samuel? Is it Brandon Ayuk? Embrace debate. I'm fascinated to see where the fan base is at on this particular subject matter. And today's 49ers Report is sponsored by Manscaped. Get 20% off and free shipping on the best, most elite men's grooming products All of us, after that loss to Kansas City, feel as though we got kicked in the balls, but that doesn't mean that you can't take care of your balls. Join the 10 million men worldwide who have put their trust in Manscaped. 2024 is here in full swing. That means it's time for a New Year's resolution check-in with your friends at Manscaped. Newsflash, never too late to level up your grooming game and keep your George W. Bush tamed. Manscaped's new Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra, every man's cheat code to look good, feel good. Turn the page on confidence this year. You can look yourself in the mirror and say, dang, I look pretty good. Or you can turn to your significant other and they'll be like, wow, you look awesome. The Performance Package, $111.99 if you use our code 49ers20 at manscaped.com/49ers. Trusted by over 10 million men across the globe. Now is your time to get a grip on your grooming with our exclusive offer. One more time for the faithful, manscaped.com/49ers. Link is dangling down in the comment section, and it's in the description of this video. Now, the purpose of this conversation here, we're about to show you the top cap hits on the San Francisco 49ers going into the 2024 season. And when you lose the Super Bowl, the pressure gets ratcheted up. And the Niners right now are firmly in the pressure cooker. Should have won Super Bowl 54. Should have won Super Bowl 58. And the Niners as an organization feel a need to capitalize with this core. Because if this core group of players on this Niners team don't win a Super Bowl, we're going to look back at this era as a massive what if because of all of the future Hall of Famers, all pros and Pro Bowlers who were on this team. So the pressure is on for the Niners. And San Francisco has a roster that's getting increasingly expensive. The NFL salary cap is going to go up on the uptick once again. It's expected to exceed $240 million for the 2024 season because business continues to be booming, and Niners-Chiefs in Super Bowl 58, the most watched telecast of all time with an average viewership of $125 million. As for the aforementioned list of the top 10 cap hits for this team in 2024, contract restructures at a minimum are going to happen in order for the Niners to clear up cap space. Trent Williams, highest cap hit at $31.5 million. He's worth it because he continues to be the best left tackle in the game. Deebo Samuel, that contract has been disappointing, especially when he has a cap hit of $28.5 million. Eric Armstead, good player, overpaid, being paid great player money. Last 2 years, he's missed a lot of time. Cap hit at 28.3. Fred Warner, worth it. Best off-ball linebacker in the NFL, multiple years running, 24.4 there. I'm going to say this right now. I love George Kittle. First 1,000-yard season since 2019. But if there is a star player that you need to trade in order to clear up some cap room with, it might be George Kittle because you can find quality tight ends elsewhere. Charvarius Mooney-Ward, I would extend his contract, which then allows you to defer that money to the back end, and then you can free up money over the next couple of years. Javon Hargrave thought he played well in the Super Bowl despite that torn ligament in his thumb. Cap hit of 15.4. Then you have Bosa at 14.5, Christian McCaffrey at 14.1, and Brandon Ayuk at 14.1 on the fifth year of that fifth-year option. Deebo Samuel is the seventh highest paid wide receiver in the NFL. In the last 2 years, since signing that contract extension, let me just ask you this simple question. Has he been worth being the seventh highest paid wide receiver in the NFL? The answer to that is no. So if you have to keep one, trade one, who are you keeping and trading? For me, I'm keeping and extending Brandon Ayuk because I think he's the more valuable player. He's the better player, and you can find a gadget weapon for cheaper like Deebo who can still impact the game in a variety of ways for a fraction of the $28 million cap hit that Deebo is on the books for. There is a kicker here, though. Deebo does have a dead cap number of $26.5 million. So if you were to trade him away, you'd have to eat that. So you might as well keep him on the roster this year, but this is going to become a conversation once you don't have to worry about those financial details. But going back to Ayuk, he's the younger, better, more complete, and durable wide receiver. I don't think that anybody could disagree with that, and this is a classic case in which the numbers do not lie. The last 2 years, Ayuk has missed a grand total of 1 game, and he has outproduced Debo by a wide margin. Now, Debo is one of one. Debo's a unique player, a home run threat to take it to the crib at any moment. He can play running back. He can carry the ball in a jet sweep, bubble screen, picking up yards after the catch, leads all NFL wide receivers in that category since coming into the league. But his playing style and how he plays and the elements to his game, I think can be found on a cheaper price tag. And for Ayuk, we've seen this player emerge, get better, improve, and ascend every single year that he's been in the NFL. And I think durability is a big thing here. Because if you're going to extend Brandon Ayuk, like you extended Debo Samuel, your hope is that those players are going to be on the field, being productive for you throughout the duration and the length of that contract. Ayuk's done that. Last 2 years, he's missed 1 game and a total of 2,357 receiving yards. Debo Samuel has missed 6 games, and he's only compiled 1,524 receiving yards. And look at what Ayuk did in what was a breakout 2023. And I look pretty damn good because going into 2022, I even said, Ayuk's a borderline top 10, top 15 guy. I'd take him over CD Lamb. This year, yards per catch, number 2 at nearly 18. Yards per target, number 2 at 12.8. He was the second highest graded wide receiver according to Pro Football Focus, 91.5. EPA, number 2 at 107.3. And despite this being a run-heavy football club, Ayuk was number 7 in receiving yards with 1,342. So this is certainly an interesting conversation that this front office should have if it hasn't already had that conversation. And moving forward, we got the wheels churning on something to think about here. So we asked you this question earlier. If you didn't answer it yet, if you had to pick one wideout to keep, who are you rolling with? DS for Debo Samuel, BA for Brandon Ayuk. Embrace debate down in the comment section here on the San Francisco 49ers Report. And as you venture down there, don't forget to subscribe. More Super Chats piling in. Geodude. CMC can play the Debo role. Feature BA, Jawan Jennings, as well as George Kittle. Christian McCaffrey is your running back who you want to be a receiving threat. I don't think that Christian McCaffrey is going to just primarily play wide receiver and some running back like Debo does. He's also not the same player as Debo. Again, Debo Samuel is a special player. A couple of those drops in the Super Bowl, inexcusable though. They can't happen. Lisa Rodriguez, what's up, Lisa? $5 Super Chat. I'd take BA over Debo. Whoa. Problem is, Kyle can't play call without him. Debo is central to this offense. Look at what happens when he's out. And we talked about that going into the NFC Championship game. The Niners' production, the Niners' win-loss record, far better with Debo as compared to without him. But I think that you can find ways to get around that. You find a weapon like him, you get a vertical threat, and the combination of those two players could make up for the loss of number 19. EZB! 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 A $50 Super Chat, and the first person here in February to get a gold sticker on the Niners helmet. I think Saban was sick of obnoxious bammers, not all, just some. Didn't appreciate him. Football's in his blood and may go with Belichick. So do I do two entries and $10 draw? And with this one, can you put Kobe on the helmet instead of my name? So yes, every $10 Super Chat, Izzy, gets you a submission for the Niners jersey raffle. You send in the 2 10s, so that gives you 2 submissions. So yes, you were right on that. And then I will put Colby as the first gold sticker going on our Niners helmet, which is awesome.
Let's go.
$50 Super Chat gets you on, and let's get Kobe on the helmet.
Colby, 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 Colby.
Colby. There it is. Colby, Your mom Izzy B, a real one. So 2 segments down here on the 49ers Report. We are $10 away from $100 here on the show. Let's get it popping. Segment number 3 coming up as well.
Let's go, baby. Get those questions in. Last chance. Hashtag 49ers or Super Chat. To skip the line, get to the front of the line. Get those questions in. I see people asking questions. Use that hashtag, baby.
That's right.
Get on the show.
Get on the show. Super Chat like Izzy. Get on the show. Super Chat like Izzy. Black Death said, what nerds? Yeah, you just don't get the sarcasm here. And you don't get having fun. All right, segment number 3. Niners going to bring back Chase Young? If Nick Bosa was making the decision, he said he would. And the Niners signing 2 defensive ends today. We'll round out with all of that. And we'll be taking your questions on this last segment. So last call, use the hashtag 49ers or send in a super chat. Ready to rock? Presented by Eat Sleep, right? Let's do it. Izzy B. Jesus Saves. Gina G. Caesar. Geodude. K-Vala. CS. All a part of the recent commenter club. And Izzy B said, I'm a nerd. Kind of cute. Love it, Izzy. Love all the cuties out there. All right. Segment number 3. Let's go. Today's San Francisco 49ers Report is sponsored by 8 Sleep. Get $200 off on the pod cover at 8sleep.com/chatsports. And by using that link, not only do you get $200 off, you also get free shipping. We'll tell you more about 8 Sleep coming up here in just a few moments. The San Francisco 49ers signing 2 defensive ends going into NFL free agency. They inked Ernest Brown to a contract, used to play with the Los Angeles Rams, and they have signed Raymond Johnson, who is with the Detroit Lions. So you have a player from a division rival and a player against the team that you faced in the NFC Championship game. First, more on Ernest Brown. He was a 5th-round pick in 2021. He played his college football at Northwestern. Solid size at 6'4", 270. In his career, 12 games, 0 sacks. Given that size, he's a little bit slow, not twitchy at all. He will be a training camp body most likely for this football team. I highly doubt that he's going to be able to crack the 53-man roster. And then some more on Johnson here. He went undrafted in 2021. He played his college football at Georgia Southern. Similar size and build, 6'3", 264. Right away, he actually played in 15 games with the New York Giants in 2021, primarily on special teams, has not made an appearance at the NFL level since then. So the Niners signing 2 defensive ends. What is the future of one of their defensive ends? Cleveland Ferrell's going to be a free agent. So too is Chase Young. And will the Niners elect to bring Chase Young back after they acquired him at the NFL trade deadline this past year? It was certainly a Jekyll and Hyde year for Chase Young. He comes to the Bay Area with a lot of hype. Former number 2 pick in 2020, a year after Nick Bosa. Both him and Nick Bosa played at Ohio State. Chase Young won Defensive Rookie of the Year. And then knee injuries really hurt him the next couple of years. And this year, he certainly showed some flashes. What's of note here is that Nick Bosa, during locker room cleanout day earlier this week after the Niners lost the Super Bowl, said, I want Chase Young back. But this becomes a very interesting conversation. In 2023, Chase Young did have 7.5 sacks between his time with Washington as well as with the San Francisco 49ers. 7 tackles for loss, 0 forced fumbles, and 0 fumble recoveries. What's weird, though, is that the Commanders just simply are not the level of team that the San Francisco 49ers are. That's clear and obvious, right? But he was actually a better player on a defense that was worse with the Commanders, where he had 5 sacks in 7 games. He only had 2.5 sacks in 9 games, and of course came under fire after the lack of effort on the Jahmyr Gibbs touchdown run in the NFC Championship game. Of course, he wasn't the only player that was lacking effort, but he was one of them. And for a player who's 6'5", 264, is so gifted and has all this ability, it's disappointing to see him lacking in the hustle department on a play like that in a game of that significance, right? But when he got traded from Washington to San Francisco, the word on him was he would occasionally take plays off, and he wasn't beloved by any means in the locker room. So that lack of effort and the Jekyll and Hyde nature of it has led to consistent results. And because of that, it's going to be hard to commit to Chase Young for a long-term contract given the injuries to his knee as well as the effort level. But then, this is why he's somewhat of a polarizing figure. How about how he played against Kansas City, especially in that first half? Had that sack of Patrick Mahomes, able to collapse the pocket off the edge. I thought he made his presence be known on a couple of different occasions. And his Pro Football Focus grades in 2023 were pretty good. 74.5 overall grade, 75.8 pass rush grade. He tallied 48 hurries, 8 hits, and 66 total pressures. What I would do, you want to come back on a 1-year, $15 million contract, I'd think about that. 2 years, $30 million, hoping that he could be engaged. You're going to pair him up with Nick Bosa's college teammate, Chris Kocurek, best defensive line coach in the NFL, with maybe a better scheme. That's what I would do. But if he can get more than that, which I very well expect he might, on the market in free agency, I'm fine with letting him walk, and then you try to address that position elsewhere. How would you address it? Should the Niners re-sign Chase Young? Type R for re-sign, W for let him walk in free agency. Chase, lack of production, lack of effort, and he's going to be too expensive. Share your thoughts with me down in the comment section right now. Start to take some of your questions on the 49ers report. You have this one from Izzy B, $10 super chat. Thank you so much for the donation, real one. You think Bill Belichick will try to get Nick Saban as an assistant or as a coordinator? He has worked with Belichick. Yes, Saban wasn't good as an NFL head coach, but is still one of the best. So, if I'm Kyle Shanahan, I'm calling Bill Belichick. And he's going to be the head coach of the defense. He can hire whoever the heck he wants. But Izzy B, I don't think that Nick Saban is going to come with him. It's one thing for Belichick to have the ego that he does and to go from being a head coach to a defensive coordinator. It's another thing for Nick Saban, who's old, who's accomplished everything you need to accomplish in college football, to go from being head coach to not even a defensive coordinator. So I think Belichick would be able to build a really, really good staff and a quality staff. It wouldn't include Saban. He retired for a reason. He even said that he got worn down and didn't have the same pursuit of greatness that he's had in years prior because he's starting to get a little bit older. That's father time. Search I-87. I agree with Stephen A. Smith that Kyle used Steve Wilks. I don't know how Stephen A. comes up with the take that he used Steve Wilks. In what way is he using Steve Wilks? This is a move that didn't really surprise me much at all. And it's one that I saw coming, and that's why we talked about it on the Niners report the other day before the news actually happened. And you think about what happened with Steve Wilks and San Francisco, there was a lack of cohesion right from the jump. I don't think that Shanahan really trusted Steve Wilks. It was the first time that he hired outside of the family Shanahan tree. And there was so much talk about the front not being tied to the back end. You can blame Kyle Shanahan for this, just not for the reasons everybody is saying, calling him scapegoat, calling Wilks the fall guy. You can blame Shanahan for just making the incorrect hire because he went outside of what he knows. But players voiced this year they were frustrated with the scheme. Shanahan called out Wilks after the Minnesota game, made him address the all-out blitz, zero blitz right before halftime publicly. Wilks had to move from the booth to the sideline. The defense regressed in 2023. They were a top 5 scoring defense, right? But third down rate, 27th. EPA per play for number 1 to 12. And then the Niners rushing defense went from number 1 to 26th. They gave up 130 rushing yards per game in the NFL playoffs. For a team that bills itself as physical, they weren't that. Tail end of the year, they weren't good. And anytime they went up against an elite quarterback this year, they got cooked. Kirk Cousins, Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes, writing was on the wall. Kelly, $5. Thoughts on Wilks being fired as deflection for blaming Shanahan? I thought we all saw this coming. Kelly, Search High, basically answered both of those questions back to back. and I answered those questions during our live as well. Really appreciate your support of the show. But my thoughts for Sir Chai Kelly, same exact thoughts for you. I agree. You can blame Shanahan, but you can't say that Wilks is being the fall guy. It just didn't work out. And again, that can be on Kyle Shanahan. Today's 49ers Report is sponsored by 8 Sleep. Get $200 off the Pod 3 cover at 8sleep.com/chatsports. That's 8sleep.com/chatsports. This is a whole new sleep to power a whole new you. What the Pod 3 cover is, temperature cooling or heating pad that you can slip right over your mattress. What's awesome about this is that by the power of your own phone, you can control how cool or how warm your 8 Sleep gets so that you and your significant other or whoever you sleep with, if you have different sleep preferences, you can go cool on your side, hot on theirs, or vice versa. Now, I'm somebody who loves cold exposure. I cold plunge and cold shower every single day for health and wellness reasons. I also sauna every single night. So I'm able to use this because you can get it as low as the low to mid 50s up to 100 plus degrees. Kickstart the year fully charged. Sleep is at the foundation of our success as human beings. It's science how good it is for you. And what's awesome, you slip this over your mattress cover. You can control the temperatures from your phone. It is absolutely terrific. The intelligent sleep system, $200 off the pod cover, 8sleep.com/chatsports. Link is down below in the comment section and in the description of this video. Geodude is next up. Christian McCaffrey can play the Debo role, and then you can feature Brandon Ayuk, Juwan Jennings, and George Kittle a little bit more. I love McCaffrey. He's a really special player. Running in between the tackles, outside of the tackles to the edge, being able to catch the ball out of the backfield, run routes out of the backfield. He can run routes as a slot. I do worry about him coming off 2,000 all-purpose yards with his age and mileage and some years of injury history, given the workload that he accumulated this past year. Oftentimes, the leading rushers in the NFL the following year don't have anywhere close to the production, and that's kind of why this loss is such a bummer in the Super Bowl, because you had such a special roster. You have some of these players who are starting to get a little bit older, and you're not able to capitalize. So I love Christian McCaffrey as a player. I'm not quite sure he's going to replace Debo, because Debo can line up in the slot and out wide. You don't want McCaffrey doing that on every single play. But if you did trade him away for some good draft capital, and then you featured Ayuk, Juwan Jennings, George Kittle, and you still like Christian McCaffrey, I do think that offense wouldn't be awful. They've obviously missed Debo when he's been out. The win-loss record is completely different when he misses games, but that's something that you can adjust to. Lisa Rodriguez, excuse me. We have a Lisa Hernandez who watches the show. Faithful ladies. I'd take Brandon Ayuk over Debo. The problem is Kyle can't play call without him. Debo is central to this offense. Look at what happens when he's out. And yeah, I alluded to some of that during that last Super Chat, and there's no doubt that this Niners team is a lot different with Debo compared to what it is and the look of it and the feel of it when Debo is not in the lineup. Debo Samuel is a one-of-one player, very unique as an athlete, a threat to take it to the paint from anywhere, anytime. He gets his hands on the football. He can run a variety of routes, leads all wide receivers in yak since coming into the league, has pretty good hands, even though he had a couple of drops in the Super Bowl. He needs to improve on that. There's no doubt. He's been disappointed given the contract extension he's had. But yeah, when he's out, the Niners do suffer a little bit, because I think the confidence and the swagger and the leadership and him being a captain, all those things really, really do matter. But I do believe if you did move off Debo, it's not like your entire season is just going to go right down the toilet. Levi Bishop, $5 super chat. Christian McCaffrey is our dog. Not letting him continue to eat in the second half against Kansas City was the biggest mistake. Secondly, to receive Ingram's ball in overtime. Yeah, with the whole running thing, the Chiefs switched up their defense. They went from a lot of zone to a lot of man, and they started to lock in on the ground game. And sometimes you see teams have success with running it early, and then you see them go away from the run later. A lot of that is not because they're going away from the run to just go away from the run, and they're ignoring that aspect of the game. Sometimes it's, the defense is playing us a little bit differently. I thought the Chiefs in that game started to stop the run a little bit better, so you started to throw it. But I did think running the ball could have been a little bit more of a point of emphasis from minute 1 to minute 60. At times, the Niners did go away from that. And yeah, taking the ball in overtime has obviously become a very debated topic. I think Shanahan and John Lynch even talked about this. They wanted that defense to get a little bit of a rest after regulation. They had just gotten gashed, and over the last couple of drives, they looked winded and tired. Now, I get it. If the Chiefs score a touchdown there, it's not like the regular season. You do get the ball back, and the game is on your terms. And maybe you go for overtime instead of having your defense go out there once again. But the Niners just didn't take care of business. And that's really what this game comes down to. They shot themselves in the foot on numerous occasions. Christian McCaffrey fumbled inside the Chiefs' 30 on the opening drive. You could have had 3 or 7 points right there. Jake Moody missed PAT. That's another point right there. The fumbled punt woke the Chiefs' offense up. They didn't do anything up until that point. You gave up 7 there. Multiple bad penalties. Like, all of these self-inflicted mistakes led to San Francisco losing the football game. Michael Everett, Aussie, oi, $8 super chat. Would you trade Armstead? He seems to be injured a lot. I'd try to restructure his contract. If he's not with the Niners in 2024, that won't surprise me at all. He has an enormous cap hit coming up this upcoming season of $28 million. He's way, way too expensive at that number for the production that he gives you. I think he's extremely valuable. I love him as a player, but $28 million for a player who's been injured the last 2 years for the lack of production, I'm good. 963, whose contracts did the front office try and restructure in order to free up some cap space? They've already restructured Armstead's a couple times. They restructured George Kittle's. I think Debo is the next one that you try to restructure. I think you try to extend Charvarius Ward, and then you kind of backload that contract to free up some money over the next few years. Charvarius Ward is a player who's starting to come into his own, second-team All-Pro at 29 years old. And if you can keep him, and then you can open up some dollars right now, that makes some sense. He who collects any chance they make a trade for Joey Bosa if he's being shopped. Nick Bosa said, I want Chase Young back. Can you imagine if you went up to Nick Bosa and you were like, Chase Young, Joey Bosa? He'd take Joey Bosa. There's no doubt. I mean, can you imagine playing on opposite sides of the defensive line with your brother? That'd be incredible. It's just not realistic because Bosa is making a ton of money. Ken Dowsland, there's been some confusion about how long Brock's rookie deal is. I have heard 3 years, also 4 years. How long is the deal? So if you're a first-round pick, a team can exercise your 5th-year option, and that puts you under team control for about 5 years. If you're not a first-round pick, you get a 4-year contract. So for this case, and of course, if you're a UDFA, it changes. But if you're drafted, and Brock Purdy was, 4 years on that deal. So he's already played 2. So you have 2 more years that Brock Purdy is under team control for the very affordable price tag that I think is the best value in the National Football League. Less than $1 million this year for top 5 MVP vote getter. It's pretty damn good. Make sure you subscribe to us here on the 49ers Report. Moving forward, programming announcement. We will be going live Tuesday, Thursday, every single week at 5:30 p.m. Eastern, 2:30 p.m. Pacific. Turn on your notice, set your alarm so that you can join us week in, week out. And of course, when breaking news happens, we'll be going live for those events as well. All right, last call for Super Chats here. All Super Chats get a shout out. $10, Niners jersey raffle. $50, we got one from Izzy B, who's going on the Niners helmet. And $100, whoever sends in the most becomes our 49ers Report February MVP.
You know, Chase, it is Thirsty Thursday.
Yes, it is.
So if someone wants to send in to 50 and get on that helmet, I'll sweeten the pot a little bit. I'll get to drinking here on a Thirsty Thursday. I'll do a little beer bong for the people if we get a 50.
All right, 2 minutes on the clock. 2 minutes on the clock. That's what we're doing here.
You're on the clock, though. You're on the clock.
2 minutes on the clock. 2 minutes on the clock.
I would trade. I like this guy's name, by the way. Chip Chipperson.
Chip Chipperson.
Love that name.
Is that after Jake Chipper?
Love that name. I would trade our whole D-line for Chris Jones. What a player Chris Jones is.
American Masters. Trade BA for picks or an offensive tackle. Draft Jerry's son, Brendan Rice, and Frank Gore Jr. Both are solid. We save cap. And then draft center, right guard, right tackle, and wide receiver. I love where your head's at, man. You're tapping into what the faithful really values and thinks about. You're addressing positions of need. I remember last year we were having conversations about an Ayuk deal, and I'm like, look, if you want to trade him away and you think that you can get a really, really good right tackle, do you entertain that? I wouldn't have done it. I also would have upgraded from Colton McKivitz, which was an absolute joke. And then Brendan Rice, he's good at a USC, and then Frank Gore's son, also very, very good. How wild would that be? You get a Rice and you get a Gore back in the Bay. Maybe those are the good vibes that the Niners need to finally win a Super Bowl.
Insane.
That could
you
be
imagine if they came to San Francisco and they were like really, really good?
Yeah,
too?
that'd be nuts. They won a Super Bowl and either Brendan or Frank celebrating with their pops on the field.
Oh, that'd be legendary.
That would go viral on Niners Twitter.
See, that's what I need at the Super Bowl. No Taylor Swift. I need stuff like that.
Yeah. All right. 15 seconds left on the 2-minute shot clock here. Another successful live show here today. Glad everybody's hanging out. It's been awesome. Izzy B, might have to make you a moderator at some point. You're like, subscribe, like the video, send in a super chat. We love it, Izzle.
She's been putting this Chiefs fan in here in his place as well.
16 Bar King! Support for the show and my team, Niner Gang Maine. 16 Bar King. I thought I saw you email me the other day to win that Joe Montana helmet. Let's see.
When we get some more bars, 16 Bar King. We need it. The Niner Gang needs it.
Yep, I got it from you, 16 Bar King. So that's a $10 super chat to go toward our raffle. Good stuff. Draco. Unfortunately, we weren't able to link up in Vegas. Hopefully next time. I'm not going to lie, Chase. I really don't know. I need an offensive lineman and a cornerback with their first. I'm going offensive line very, very early. I'm with you on that.
Absolutely.
With you on that. All right, we're going to sign off here on the 49ers Report. Great content to come all throughout the weekend. We'll not be hopping on with Larry Krueger tomorrow because he's going to be on 95.7 The Game for his radio shift. So I'll be with him hopefully next week. And then great Niners content to come all throughout this week. And we'll keep you updated as to what is going down on the Niners search for a new defensive coordinator to take over for Steve Wilks. For Chip, I'm Chase for the faithful. We are signing off, and we'll catch you next time. See ya.